Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Eloka. I'm the MD and CEO of Century Power Generation Limited, the company that was formed to produce power in Nigeria and supply power to Nigeria. I'm here to talk to you about the power value chain. You know, when we talk about there's no power in Nigeria, even though the sector has been privatized, a lot of people don't understand a lot of the technical terms that we use in the industry. They don't understand when we say distribution is not working or transmission is not working and so on and so forth. So I'm going to try and break it down a little bit. Now, in the power value chain, we start from fuel production to fuel transportation, power generation, transmission, and distribution. What that really means is this. If we're thinking of producing power only with natural gas, for example, I'm going to focus on that. That's the gas that we produce from oil drilling or gas drilling. That gas is taken out. It has a lot of fluids in it. It could be oil, it could be water, it could be particles, whatever. It has to be cleaned up, processed. And then the gas is put into pipelines, gas pipelines, and it's delivered to the GENCOs, generating companies. We have several in Nigeria. We produce power in generating companies and transmit the power on transmission lines, those what we call the high tension cables that you see on the highways or inside cities. And then it takes it to the distribution companies. We have 11 distribution companies in Nigeria today. So if you're living in Nigeria, if you live in Lagos, you know Eko Disco or Ikeja Disco. Now, those companies, those distribution companies or discos will now send the power from their facilities to the homes, to the factories, to the offices, and so on and so forth. They now collect the money and start to pay everyone. They pay the transmission company, they pay the GENCOs, they pay the owner of the gas pipelines, and then they pay the producer of the gas. That's the power value chain. In Nigeria today, we have never been able to utilize the full capacity that we have. We have a capacity of 12,522 megawatts. What that means really is that we are able to produce 12,522 megawatts of electricity within Nigeria if everything works well. But it doesn't work well. Why doesn't it work well? Most of the gas we produce today in Nigeria, over 40%, is either flared or is reinjected into the wells to produce more oil. Only about 21% of the gas produced in Nigeria today is used within the country, mostly to generate electricity. That's one big problem. Next problem is that we don't have enough gas pipelines in the country to take gas from where it's produced to the different sections of the country. Okay? North, south, east, and west. We don't have enough, and we need to build many more pipelines for us to have enough. Put that aside for a second. Let's focus on generation. Any developed or seriously developing country needs to have a lot of ability, a lot of capacity to produce power. South Africa, for example, produces over 40,000 megawatts of power. Take a small country like Norway with a population of about 4 million people. They produce over 36,000 megawatts of power. Compare that to Nigeria. With our population in Nigeria, what we produce currently means that if you divide it among all about 200 and something million people in Nigeria, everybody will get enough electricity to power a small bulb. Say a 15-watt bulb. For those of you that may not understand what watts means. So a small bulb that you have in your house, that's what it means. That's not enough. And then we talk about distribution. We do not have enough distribution capacity in Nigeria. Now, what does that mean? It simply means that those wires that you see going into houses or going into factories or going into companies are not enough. Some of them are too old. The transformers that we have are not enough to carry the amount of power that we need to go all around the country. So a lot of work needs to be done. A lot of houses, a lot of factories don't have meters. So you can't even tell what they're consuming. And then you hear people talking about tariff. Tariff is the amount of money that is charged to a customer. So if you're a resident, a residential customer in Lagos, for example, the high value residents who consume a lot of power are charged about 29 naira per kilowatt hour. That is the unit of power that they use, okay? Now, some other residents may be charged 25 naira or thereabouts. But we're saying that for us to have power in Nigeria 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we need to charge more for that power. Of course, everybody's going to say, no, we're already paying too much. How could you charge us more? Produce power first before you charge. But that's where the problem lies. If we are going to have 24/7 power in this country, we need to charge more for it because it takes a lot of money to make the investment, to send meters to everyone's house, to put more wires, more transmission lines, more distribution lines, to put more transformers in all the places they need to go to. It takes money. It takes a lot of money to fix the transmission lines, those high tension cables that come from the generating plants all the way to substations where the power now starts going to different distribution networks. Today in Nigeria, we have enough transmission lines only to move about 5,500 megawatts of power. That is nothing compared to the population that we have in this country. Now, one of the problems that we also have once we start talking about tariff is that people assume that power is a social service. It's not a social service. We all have cell phones. Even the poorest of the poor in Nigeria today, a lot of them can afford at least one cell phone. Even if they don't have money to buy credit, they may have a cell phone, even if it's the tiny cell phone. But you put as much money in there as you can afford, and you only talk as much as you can afford. So that's why you find people flashing you. They'll flash you and say, I beg, I don't get credit, call me back. Then you call them back. That's because they use what they can afford. But in Nigeria today, what you find in the power industry is some people are stealing the power. What that means is they go and illegally connect so they can drop power and put in their houses or their small factories, right? Or the power that they get, they refuse to pay, or they don't have meters, so there's what they call estimated billing, which means at the end of the month, the distribution network that serves the people will send you a bill based on what they estimate that you consume. A lot of times is incorrect. Then there's also the issue where people start to say, we will only pay you more money when you give us 24/7 power. So it's a chicken and egg situation. Do we have more power first before you're willing to pay more? Or do you start paying more before they give you the power? Those of us in the power industry understand that for us to raise money to make the required investment, you must show that you'll be able to collect enough money to pay back the people or the banks or the financial institutions that give you the money at a profit. Face it, nobody goes into business not to make a profit. Everybody goes into business to make a profit, okay? Even your tailor, your taxi drivers, your megad, whoever. People go into business to make money. The same thing applies to the people in the value chain, the power value chain. So I say to Nigerians, very simply put, we need to change the way we think about power. You find a lot of homes today or offices where, I'll give you an example, someone that has 10 air conditioning units in their house and probably lived alone, right? Or with a couple of staff working for them. They need to dash out to the store to do whatever, and they leave all the ACs on. You know why they're able to do that? Either they have too much money and they don't mind wasting the money, or they're not paying the correct tariff. But if they were paying the correct tariff, guess what? If you are sitting in the living room, you will turn on only the air conditioning unit in your living room. By the time you retire to your bedroom to sleep for the night, you turn off everything else, including all the lights, and you leave only the air conditioner in your bedroom, so that the amount of power you consume is low, and so your bill at the end of the month represents only what you needed to use. You will find, if people start paying the right tariff, that we will develop what we call energy responsibility. You use only what you can pay for. Just like your cell phone. You wouldn't make a call, your cell phone today, and leave it on even if you're not talking. Just leave it running. You wouldn't do that because that's money wasted. In the same way, we need to start doing the same thing in the power sector. Take it even further. You would not turn on the gas burner in your house, put a fire there, you're not cooking, and you just leave it running. By the end of the next day, your gas is fully used, but you didn't even cook anything. Nobody does that because you pay for what you use. The same thing should apply in the power sector. Now, we spent a lot of time, many years, talking about we need to cap the power tariff that people pay, the electricity tariff that people pay, because we don't want to price gouge the people. Yes, we think we're protecting the people, but what we're really doing is that we're preventing the people from getting the power that they need. We should have by now, it's been over 10 years since we're talking about this. We should have by now gone way above 40,000 megawatts of installed capacity in the country. But because we keep talking about trying to protect the people from price gouging and all that, it hasn't worked. Over the past 10 years, we've been talking about having 10,000 megawatts run in the country. It hasn't worked, and it will never work unless we do something different. And I've been saying this. Now, the government did the right thing by privatizing the power industry. And in that privatization, they put some of the assets into the hands of private companies. Private companies are expected to go and raise money, a lot of money, to make the required investment to upgrade these facilities, to install new facilities, build new infrastructure. But guess what? It doesn't work. It still hasn't worked for several reasons. One, there's the tariff. Two, there are the regulations that have been created. Some of them are okay. Some of them are so restrictive that we can't make the required investments. We can't raise the required money. Three, we are no respecter of policy, agreements in this country. We don't have the rule of law that enforces agreements in this country. Some of us have signed agreements as far back as 2015. Those agreements today are not even worth the scraps of paper they're signed on. NERC, the regulatory body that's supposed to guide the power sector, said that by 2020, we'll have about 2,000 megawatts of alternative power running in Nigeria, mostly solar. And the question you ask is, how many megawatts of solar installations do we have in Nigeria? Probably not up to 1 megawatt. And guess what? It's not going to change until we start to change the way we think about power. Government needs to focus on doing what government needs to do, which is create policies that supports the sector to grow. And then let private companies do what they need to do to help the sector grow. Government did a fantastic job in privatizing the telecoms industry. We need to do the same thing in the power industry. We need to liberalize this industry, allow a free market to exist, allow companies to do business with each other without interference. The person that generates or produces gas should be able to deal directly with the gencos that are trying to produce power. Let it be a willing buyer, willing seller type market. Gencos should be allowed to deal directly with the distribution companies. If Century Power, for example, sells power to Benin Disco and Benin Disco is not able to pay, I should be able to sell the power to Enugu Disco. If Enugu Disco is not able to pay, I should be able to put that power on the grid, send it to Eco Disco if they're going to pay, or Yola Disco or Ibadan, wherever it needs to go for them to pay me. That's the way it should work. And the tariff should be whatever we are able to negotiate amongst each other. But guess what? If we have a market that is fully open, people in the Eco Disco network should be able to buy power, not just from the Eco Disco, but from other power traders within that locality. So if Mr. A is selling power to you at 30 naira or 40 naira or 50 naira per kilowatt hour, and you think it's too high, you should be able to buy from Mr. B, who might sell it to you at a smaller discount. If the value you're getting from Mr. B, you don't think is sufficient, you go to Mr. C. That's how it works in other countries that we've tried to copy their systems. We've tried to copy, but it hasn't really worked out well because we're not copying properly. We need to make the policies that work for Nigeria, by Nigerians, in order for our sector to work. Otherwise, all the money that we've spent trying to fix this sector will be a waste. Year in, year out, We have many meetings. We have many engagements. We have many focus groups talking, discussing. It's time to stop talking and start working. Allow a free market to exist. Power is not a social service. Allow power to be treated as what it is, a business. If this happens, we are going to have power work in Nigeria 24/7. This is the only way. And people need to be educated to understand that the amount of money that you spend when you produce power by yourself, using your diesel generators or your petrol generators or your inverter or whatever, even your solar systems that you install on the roof or you have your house, is so much more than what you can get from the national grid, even if they raise the power, the tariff that you pay today. I'll give you an example. When you run a big diesel generator in your house, you're probably paying over 100 naira per kilowatt hour. Fact. But when you buy power from the grid today, you're a resident in your homes, you probably pay about 29 naira per kilowatt hour. So if a disco charges you 50 or 60 or even 70 naira per kilowatt hour, it's still cheaper than what you pay using your own generator. It causes you less stress. The pollution in your environment from smoke that comes from your generator is much less, so it's healthier for you to buy from the grid. The hassles that you deal with, the noise from your generator, the dangers that you expose your families to is also reduced. And guess what? At the end of the day, the whole place is more peaceful. Now, those people that we think we're protecting by forcing the tariffs to stay low, we're actually hurting them, because guess what? Those people can't really get jobs. A lot of our people can't get jobs today because factories are not working. We have a few factories working, but if we produce a lot of power, even at double the price of what we produce the power today, guess what's going to happen? More factories are going to be able to produce goods in Nigeria. Those factories are going to be able to hire more Nigerians, pay them more. Those Nigerians are going to turn around and buy those produced goods from the factories that run in Nigeria, and the money is going to go around. This is what happened in China. It took about 20 years for China to turn around the economy from an almost poor economy to a near superpower. The same thing can happen in Nigeria. Vietnam increased their power capacity from about 4 gigawatts of power to about 40 gigawatts of power installed capacity in only 10 years. 10. In Nigeria, we've been talking for over 15 years. So other people have done it. Vietnam's GDP is similar to Nigeria's GDP. Their population is about 93 million people. We have double that, or more than double that. We can do it. We have the resources, we have the know-how, we have the people, we have the intellect to do it. So my argument is simple. Number one, we should completely liberalize the power industry so that the entire value chain can start to work. Number two, we need to start seeing power as a business. And then number three, we need our leaders to have the political bravery, to have the courage to allow this liberalization to work so that the power sector can work just the same way the telecoms industry worked. I applaud the government for doing what they've done so far, and I encourage them, please do much more, much faster. Whoever gets the power industry right will be a hero for generations to come. Please be the hero that Nigeria wants. Be the leaders that Nigeria is expecting, and be the change that we need. You cannot keep doing the same thing and hope for different results. That's what clinical psychologists will call madness. When you're doing the same thing and expecting a different result, please do this differently so that Nigeria can become great. I recently did a poll where I asked people, random people on LinkedIn, if a Genco working with a disco can provide 24/7 power to you at a cost anywhere from 40 or 45 naira per kilowatt hour up to 70 naira per kilowatt hour, would you pay? Virtually everybody said yes. This means Nigerians are ready to pay what it takes. They pay the tariff that it takes to change the industry. And every sector is going to work. Every sector of the country will work. I know you might have questions or comments. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Twitter, on Instagram with any questions or comments you may have. And I'm willing to take your comments and your questions anytime. Thank you.